Hey guys, what's going on? It's Nathan from tattooing101.com, and I want to show you one quick method that you can use to massively improve the quality of your tattoo designs virtually overnight. Even if you're still pretty new to drawing, or you haven't got a ton of experience under your belt, if you apply this one concept to your tattoo designs, it's going to make them look drastically better. Before I show you how to do this, keep in mind that I had to bleed for this information. I didn't get taught this until I was about 2 years into my apprenticeship, and had I been taught it a lot earlier, it would have saved me a hell of a lot of time, and yeah, it would have made me do a lot less bad tattoos in the beginning of my career than what I did. So definitely recommend applying this to your own drawing, and when you see how powerful it is, then you'll never draw tattoos the same way again. So we're just going to jump inside my iPad. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Great. So when you draw a design, right, the thing that you have to understand, the muscles in the human body, basically every part of the body flows in like a natural kind of S shape. Everything kind of flows in like a sort of a pattern similar to this. It varies a bit, on the part of the body. When you understand this and you see it, you can't unsee it. And if you design your tattoos with this principle in mind, then they're going to sit on the body a lot better, and it's going to complement the person's figure. Even if the tattoo isn't done perfectly, it will still look quite good because it's designed for that specific part of the body. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples and you'll see what I mean. Just because of the way that I've drawn it doesn't mean it's the only way. You can still have that kind of general flow and shape coming from a different direction. But as long as you've sort of got that in mind when you're designing your tattoo, then it's going to make it a lot easier to design your tattoos. And it's going to make them a lot easier to look better as well. Same with the hand. Now, knowing this is extremely important. Whenever you're doing tribal, super important. That's why, when you do an apprenticeship, even though tribal's super out of date and, not many people get it anymore, a lot of mentors will make their apprentices still draw it just because it teaches you this flow of the body. It's the same with biomechanical. It's extremely important in biomechanical because otherwise it just looks kind of goofy. Same with, like a person, like a man's chest, you've got that on the abdomen, pecs, you've got that swell shape. Now let's have a look at an arm. Same kind of deal. Japanese tattooing, this stuff is really useful because when you see like the wind bars in the background of a tattoo, if they flow with that natural shape of the body, they're going to look a lot better and it's going to sit a lot better on the body. When you see a lot of new artists that don't kind of know what they're doing, and the background's kind of like, it doesn't kind of flow in any sort of general direction, it just kind of looks awkward. Well, when you understand this, it's a lot easier to make it all sit right. Cool, so here's another example of someone's arm. Now the important thing to remember as well is that these sweeping kind of S-shaped patterns, they can vary from person to person, and there's not just one way to do them. As long as you've kind of got that sort of shape, it'll still kind of work. It doesn't matter if they kind of go a bit like this, and then you can sort of have design sort of curve in that way. But as long as they've got that sweeping kind of motion like that in some sort of fashion, it does work. And you will find that some people, it's just because every body is different, and some bodies will, it will be a lot easier to see than others. And then, and also, their muscles might flow, like they might have more prominent shoulders or they might have more prominent biceps. So then therefore that might affect the shape of the flow that you, design your tattoo to. So you can kind of see in this one where it's like you've got the swirls on the shape of the neck, and you can kind of see where it curls up in the shoulder, and it's still got like that nice flowing motion. When you design tattoos with this in mind, it gives it like kind of a dynamic feel, like almost like it's moving on the person's skin, which is really what you want, especially with stuff like Japanese, because it requires a lot of flow. So not all designs have it's super easy to put that flow into them. So when you are drawing a design, how do you incorporate flow into it? Even sometimes some big tattoos, it's difficult to kind of make it flow, right? How do you do that? That's where background elements really come in handy. Stuff like being able to draw flames, water, smoke, clouds, Japanese wind bars. Those things really, really help. Even leaves on roses, you can really make that flow with that shape of the body. And I'll show you what I mean. A really good example here, right? Here's an example of a tattoo that just doesn't quite flow very well at all, okay? It doesn't have much movement in it. That there's no clear kind of like direction. It's kind of going, sort of like this, and then it kind of comes down and then up like that. There's no real flow to it. What we want is to get the kind of design to be sort of flowing like this, so then it has a nice kind of rolling effect and it looks like it's meant for the, the part of the body that it's designed for. So how do we do that? This is after a little bit of sketching. I just kind of added in I redrew the thorns and kind of made it a little bit more loose. Once I got those shapes in, I kind of did them with hard outlines, and then you can see just by incorporating this S shape, it flows a lot better. I didn't actually have to change anything with the initial skull itself. You don't have to have the skull on fire or something like that just to give it that kind of curving shape. Just with what you do in the background can really make it flow without actually having to change the elements of the tattoo, right? I'll show you some other good examples. So here's a really nice example of a tattoo that kind of flows well on the person's chest. You can see that it's got these nice kind of flow shapes, and it's got that S curvature just by having the clouds the way they are. And you can see it's got a nice flow, right? So that's one. Another one we can see, this is kind of like some biomech, but with skulls. You can see the flow. The reason why this looks so good is because it flows with the shape of the arm so well. It's got that those nice flow patterns coming through it, and it rolls right with the shape of the person's arm. That's why it looks good. When you can incorporate this in your own tattoos, even if it's not tattooed perfectly, it can still look good. But yeah, I can see I've just kind of drawn the patterns in there. But when you do draw, if it's with iPad, put your flow lines on depending on what part of the body that you're drawing, turn the opacity down, and then draw your design over it. Or if you're working just like with regular tracing paper, I'd recommend tracing the part of the body that you're going to be drawing the design for, and then just add these subtle lines in really lightly, just so that to remind you when you're drawing your pieces, like, okay, how can I make the design flow in this kind of pattern? Cool, we got another example just here. So yeah, you can see this piece flows really well. It's got that nice curving down motion, so that nice kind of pattern that we're looking for, that has that really, that S curve. You can literally do this on any part of the body, and when you do it, the tattoo just sits so much better. Same with these ones. You can just see when you've got that flow, it just works a lot better. I'll show you one more after that. This is a really cool design by Johan Finn, and you can see how it just rolls right. It's almost like the tattoo is in motion, and when you have those flow patterns, it just is so much more dynamic, and it makes the tattoo sit a lot better on the body. Now I'm going to show you some bad examples. So a bad example would be when you don't have this flow, something like this, right? Now, obviously the person that's kind of drawn this has had like a solid effort, but it doesn't really flow in any kind of direction, and it doesn't even fit on a particular shape of the body. Like, when you look at most limbs on the body, or pretty much all of them, they're long and skinny. Even the torso, it's just a bit, if you're doing a torso, it's a bit wider. The other exception is like if you're doing like a chest, then yeah, you've got like that horizontal kind of look, but it's too short to go on a torso. It's too wide at the bottom. That's why, when you are drawing a tattoo, you always want to trace the shape of the part of the body that you're drawing. It fits well, because when you put something on like this, you're gonna have a bunch of weird gaps. Now, but if you put like a photo of a chest behind this, it's got a bunch of weird, like you're gonna have weird gaps where the pecs are and the shoulders are, and then it's gonna come wrap around the stomach a lot. Whereas if you put this on a shin, then these two are gonna connect around the back. So yeah, drawing tattoos in the right shape is super important too. So if you are drawing like, in a forearm or something like that, you want to set the boundaries of the design. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to go outside these lines, or if I do, it's going to be, very, very subtly with, cloud elements or whatever. And again, it's going to make the tattoo look a lot better.